day, listeners, and welcome to Don't Imbibe the Kool-Aid. Kim Kennedy here, welcoming you to the program. So glad that you're with us, and we have another very interesting program, a very relevant one. But as I always say here, we not only like to talk about the problem, the issue, whatever it is, but we also like to talk about solutions, how everyday citizens can be involved in preserving our great liberty. And I am very delighted to have Dr. Andrew Fox with us today. We're going to talk about his credentials a little bit later. But Dr. Fox, as we were talking before the program, just marveling at how what's happening with folks coming over from Europe and other parts of the world for the World Cup. Soccer is a huge sport globally, and I think it's starting to catch on in America. I have to admit, I have been watching some of it because on the level that I'm watching it, it is a fantastic game. It is very, very fast, and there are some incredibly talented people there. But uh, I am astounded at what, especially Western Europeans, are saying. Apparently, in the media in West Europe, especially, America is not looked upon so fondly. Would that be accurate?
I think so. I think so. And thank you for having me on your show.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
I think you would be accurate there. But I think uh, media in other countries, as well as our own country here in the United States, paint the picture of America in the way that they want to. But of course, that is heavily funded, that is heavily sponsored, and there are machines behind that. But the 48 nations that have visited the United States for the World Cup are not paid to make any comments. They're not paid to post on social media. So it's straight from the heart. And I think what we see is a huge contrast between what popular media say America is and what the people actually say it is. So you get the Dutch, the German, the French, the Swiss, you get the
The
English
amazing
team.
Scots.
Yeah, oh, they drunk
I think
Boston
they're great.
Dry. Can you imagine anyone drinking Boston Dry? And yet there was no violence, no looting, no setting cars on fire or anything like that. And I think even the other day, not just the fans, but the teams themselves. So you know that the US team, they lost their game, the last game they played, and yet look what happened immediately following the game. You've got
They were praying.
you got both teams getting together and led by an American soccer player who took the knee, not to protest the flag, not for any political reason, but just simply uh, to honor God. And so I think what we're seeing, Kimberly, is the contrast between what the mainstream want you to think and what the people really think, even the soccer players themselves.
You know, it just reinforces to me that leftists live in a very tight knit bubble, and reality somehow, and I haven't figured this one out, maybe you can enlighten me. Uh, Reality doesn't seem to penetrate this bubble. I find it fascinating. It's like, how do you live in a world that is mostly constructed on deceit, and when you're confronted with reality, with truth, you double down. It's
Well,
a phenomenon that's what I don't know. What do you say?
I think it's one thing for both sides of the aisle to go at it like a bull at a gate over policy, over legislation. But as you say, over reality, I was watching the other day a news report of a man dressed as a woman, um, hair all braided, telling students not to trust their parents. In my school days, that person would have been marched off the property and thoroughly arrested, thrown into
Yeah.
jail. So the stuff of Saturday Night Live that used to be a parody has become an actuality for some people. But I'm not shocked. As you could tell from my accent, I was not born in the United States. I was born in Nottingham, England, Robin Hood country. I moved here in 1991, and the impression I got of the United States way back then, 26 years ago, was certainly a different America than it is today. And so these soccer players, going back to the World Cup, they take a week or two to assimilate to being an American, enjoying Texas, Florida, enjoying Washington, and there's pictures of them dressing up in what you would imagine would be old-fashioned American style, enjoying the food, the beverage, the customs, and everything. It takes
Doing,
them a week or two, but it's
it,
taking some of our politicians years to just appreciate the country they represent. So again, another comparison to think. I think I have a unique perspective here. I'm one that has been adopted by the United States. I came in on a visa, then a green card, the old-fashioned permanent residence, and now a naturalized citizen. And even outside my house right now, I'm flying the American flag.
Mhm.
I'm not flying the British flag. Why does it take politicians, representatives, add certain celebrities a year and a day, and sometimes never, to be grateful for the country they live in? It's shocking.
It really is, and I love your perspective. And I have to say, for some time now, I've been following a bunch of Brits who come here regularly from Britain. I love their commentary, their insights. You can read and hear some fear in them as uh, I am very much mostly British from my background, via Canada. And it kills me to watch what is happening in England. England is the home of so many great Christian martyrs. It kills me to watch what King Charles has said and done. I have my opinions on that, but I don't. I guess we shouldn't dive into that. Stay on topic.
Well, no, no, it's worthy of commenting on because it does reflect on the United States. Even Canterbury, and I'm an ordained priest with the Anglican Church here in North America. I have a parish, but it's broken ties with Canterbury because of its liberal theology. It's now part of the global Anglican community and wants nothing to do with Canterbury, which historically is quite something. And then, yes, correct, King Charles III, he is now the head of the faiths, all faiths, whereas his mother, Queen Elizabeth, and her predecessors were head of the Church of England.
Mhm.
That
Is it
complicates things.
constitutionally decreed that you must be the defender of the Christian faith, Dr.
Oh,
Fox?
yes, you have to be the defender of the Christian church in England, but now it's the defender of all faiths. That greatly complicates things. And as we're seeing the petitions for socialism and Sharia law here in the United States, I think that is the stuff of lunacy. If there is one country that you want to propagate socialism, it is not the United States. But we're seeing that in the UK. And so, the hope that we have is when the voice, the Christian voice, gets pushed into the wilderness, it's in the wilderness where it finds a fresh voice. And my
Well
hope
said.
is that clergy right across the country will take a stand, preach the gospel, teach the scriptures, be a shepherd of God's people, not because they must, but because they're willing to feed the lambs, feed the sheep, as the Bible says, and get back to the basics of what it is to be a representation of Christ. Or in my role in the Latin language um, is oh, I can't remember the Latin language now. You've got me. In persona Christi. It's to be aware that as a minister, you're representing Christ. You're not Christ, but you're representing him. And I think clergy have got too political, and we're seeing that here in this country as well. So again, the World Cup is a reset.
Mhm.
Music, entertainment,
Mm.
sports is often a catalyst for this. And when you hear how enamored people are by bookies, for instance,
I love it.
in
That's
Texas,
great.
and free ice dispensers and air conditioning,
It's
and
fun. It
it's the size of pickup trucks. It is refreshing to hear the voice of who we are, the common man, who we are as a nation and what we represent. It's just delightful. And I hope the same will happen for Britain.
I do too. And there are, I don't know if are you familiar with Reverend Brett Murphy in England? Calvin
No.
Robinson.
Oh, Kelvin Robinson.
The-
Yes, I know him. Yes.
He's wonderful. And Reverend Brett Murphy, he was actually kicked out of the Anglican Church. And he has started, he is Anglican still. There's another branch that has started again, uh, anew from, it's still in England, building new congregations, seeing people come to Christ. There is a remnant in England. There
Mm,
are people there who are taking a stand.
mm,
I think Charlie Kirk, I think, was there back in May of last year, several months before his assassination, and had a wonderful debate with some scholars in Oxford, but had opportunities to evangelize. So I think we're seeing some fruit there. I think God, in His mercy, is raising up a remnant in what I consider to be these last days. And I'm not a date setter, Dr. Fox. I don't say, Christ is coming on this date or that date, but truly we can see things that
mm.
Isaiah talked about, that Revelation talked about, etc. We're seeing them come to pass. Uh,
Yes.
and it's fascinating times to be alive in. The revival in Iran is breathtaking, as you're seeing thousands and thousands come to Christ, and some of them paying the ultimate price of
But
martyrdom.
that's right. But the media again are not reporting on
No,
this.
they are
We're
not.
having to see this through the independent journalist and their iPhone. And so, yeah, it's you can quickly lose hope. And so, as the scriptures tell us, set your mind on things above, being transformed by the renewing of your mind. Whatsoever things are pure and holy and beautiful, think on these. And when you're intravenously fed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by rhetoric and commentary from the mainstream media, you can very easily become depressed, become a reclusive, think that Gen Z are a lost generation, think that baby boomers are the worst thing on the planet. And it's just not true. And I think you've got to come back to the thing that Jesus said. He said, all the law and the prophets depend on these two commands: love God and love your neighbor. So leave your front door and get along with your neighbor. Get out there and strike up conversations. And I saw that over the July the 4th weekend in my neighborhood, in other neighborhoods, people having conversation, posting online. And what a contrast to other mainstream media that was showing that people were taking down the American flag and putting up the pride flag, or a Muslim flag or something else. Look, I think that's disgraceful anyway. When I became a citizen, every citizen of the United States, a naturalized one, receives a standard letter from the president. And in that letter, it spells out your obligations now as a citizen of America. And it includes the flag, to speak English, to pay your taxes, to contribute to what is still the great experiment. Nowhere in that letter does it tell me I can fly my British flag outside my house. Admittedly, that would be a First Amendment right, but it would be an insult to the country I'm in. So again, it's there are obligations to being a naturalized citizen, and how much more are we seeing to visitors to the United States on a visa to stay here for 6 weeks or whatever from these 48 nations and thousands upon thousands of fans? They adhere to the rules. This is not your home country. This is the United States. But you could celebrate your team here, like Scotland did. The Tartan Army or the Norwegians that have
They
the
were great.
rowing. They're getting thousands
I
of
love
people
it.
to row. It's
Just having a great time.
it is just a recovery of a sense of humor. And I
Yeah,
mean, didn't we see that when King Charles addressed Congress as well earlier on this year? There was a wonderful sense of humor, and both sides of the aisle were laughing. And so we need to recapture that. There are very serious matters that cannot be resolved overnight, and probably won't be resolved in my lifetime. But a sense of humor, I think, is a vehicle that is necessary.
reduce politicians, reduce Congress, Senate. A lot of those problems are solved just by that, Dr. Fox.
I
Um,
agree.
but that, folks, I will restrain myself. We've got a couple minutes left in this segment, Dr. Fox, and I just I have to say, from my point of view, that what we have witnessed is that it has caused me to repent of bashing my own country in a soft way. I'm not a leftist at all, but I did have a negative outlook to some degree. And when I see, like you said, some people pouring soda, it's like, well, it's like that around the world. Apparently, it's not. Apparently, having air conditioning around the world is not as common. I just assumed, I took for granted. And I said to the Lord, I am not grateful for your blessings. And I had to fess up and realize that America, with all its faults, and you live here, Dr. Fox, you know what they are. Apparently, it's true what I hear missionaries come back and say. There's still the standard of living here. Um, other countries pale in comparison. And
Mm,
it must be noted that, we have to
mm,
build walls to keep people out. North Korea has to build walls to keep people in.
mhm,
So there's a reason for that, folks. And we've heard enough horror stories out of communist countries. We talk about this consistently on this country, not to bash, but to inform and just to help people to realize that representative government, where the elected answer to those who elect them, is the greatest source of government in the world.
mm.
And but we are up against a break, listeners. You're listening to Don't Imbibe the Kool-Aid. We're talking with Dr. Andrew Fox. We're going to learn a little bit about him in our next segment. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of struggling with low energy? We get it. That's why we created Organic Energy Juice. You'll have clean, natural energy all day and never struggle with low energy again. In just 2 minutes, you can restore your energy without those toxic chemicals and stimulants that make you crash. You shouldn't have to struggle with low energy, and with Organic Energy Juice, you won't. If you're struggling with low energy, then buying Organic Energy Juice is the right decision. Go to chemicalfreebody.com/out loud and save 20% on your first order.
Your heart is the most crucial muscle in your body. Are you doing enough to keep it strong? Introducing the Wellness Company's Breakthrough Healthy Heart Formula, designed by Dr. Peter McCullough, now upgraded with taurine. This daily supplement supports cardiovascular health and works to protect cells against oxidative stress. Packed with D-ribose to boost heart function, taurine to help maintain heart and muscular health, coenzyme Q10 and selenium citrate to help reduce risk of cardiac disease, and a vitamin B complex with L-carnitine for energy and muscle support. Endorsed by the Wellness Company's Chief Medical Board, this formula is your ally for heart health. Reclaim your health now at twc.health/outloud and use code OUTLOUD for 20% off your first order plus free shipping.
Well, did you see Google quietly updated its AI principles, removing its pledge not to use AI for weapons or surveillance, a promise they agreed to in 2018? Well, the American people have seen Google's track record, prompting the question, is Google an untrustworthy player in the AI race? Now is our time, my fellow Americans. AmericaOutloud.news. Liberty and justice for all.
Welcome back, listeners, to Don't Imbibe the Kool-Aid. Kim Kennedy here, your host for today's program. Very glad that you're with us, as always. And we have been starting a conversation with Dr. Andrew Fox. I just wanted to take some time here to give you a little bit more about his background. We're going to talk about his organization and his book in more detail in our next segment. But Dr. Fox is a priest, organizational culture expert, educator, author, business leader, with more than 3 decades of experience helping organizations, churches, businesses, and leaders navigate growth, transformation, and cultural change. His work focuses on organizational leadership, communication, culture development, and leadership formation, drawing on experience across ministry, higher education, consulting, and international leadership initiatives. He's currently serving as priest at Christ Our Savior Anglican Church in Georgetown, Texas. He's also the CEO of Cultural Clarity. We'll want to talk a little bit more about that. A consulting firm dedicated to helping organizations improve culture, communication, and leadership effectiveness. In addition, he owns Fox Realty Brokerage in Austin, Texas. Dr. Fox, it doesn't sound like you're busy enough. Doesn't sound like you have enough to do there. That's a lot. That's a lot of things that you've got your hands in, and trying to be a positive force in the culture. We need more folks doing that to whatever degree they can.
Yeah.
Um, but
I think
we
I
want,
think this is what America affords someone like me. Is I don't know in any other country that you could do these things. To be honest, Kimberly, I was an Assembly of God pastor right up until 2012, pastoring a church, and then I respectfully came out of it to finish up a second master's degree and then earn a PhD, to go into teaching in university. That's how I felt led, and that was for about 12 years. And in that 12 years, founded Fox Realty. My wife is the broker, and Cultural Clarity. I found lots of middle-sized companies were struggling as to why are people leaving us and joining another company for less money. And part of my PhD was into cultural communication, and so I was able to apply those things. But then after 12 years, the Lord called me back to the pastoral ministry, and but not with the Assemblies of God, but with the Anglican Church. So I went through the whole process of becoming a priest, because right across the country, there are people of all ages returning to light liturgical worship, not heavy, but light liturgical worship that centers around Holy Communion and the retelling of the redemptive story. That's my passion. And my bishop asked if we would plant a church, and we did 18 months ago in Georgetown here, thoroughly enjoying it. There's a good number of people in there now. We are into our second building. We outgrew the first one. And, our whole lives, really, Kimberly, are built on, the proverb where it says, when the righteous prosper, the city rejoices. So I thought to myself, Lord, if you're calling me back into ministry, how can I do this without being a burden to anyone financially? And these business enterprises provide for us. And so I don't take an income from the church by choice, which allows finances to go where they need to go. Then we set up a foundation as well, taking 20% of all the commissions we earn in business and putting it into the Community Transformation Foundation, which gives to the needy in our community that fit the criterion of the least of our brethren. So I don't receive money for ministry. I give money out of our business. Over the years now, it's reached $750,000 back to the local community. And so, where else other than America can you do these things? And the fertile heart of the United States, with God's call, people doing podcasts like you, others doing other things that God blesses, God increases, and God uses it for his kingdom. And so, I want my life to matter. I didn't move to the United States to get a job. I had one in England. I want my life to matter. And, everything is yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory, and the prayer of let your kingdom come, your will be done. So that would be a summary of the blessing of what it is to live in America, seen through our own activities, business interests, and ministry.
I appreciate what you're saying very much, and I find it interesting that oftentimes it takes outside voices, not diminishing your citizenship here or anything, but your perspective being British born and having a non-American foundation, and you see issues, and I hope part of starting Cultural Clarity, which I'd like to talk a little bit more about, has to do with helping citizens like myself and so many others who are fighting the social democrats of America. And you know what they are, Dr. Fox. You know
Mm-hmm.
probably better than I do.
Mm-hmm.
These are hardcore leftist Marxists who want to overthrow the beauty of self government, which is uniquely a Christian concept. Because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people want to call John Adams, he's a bigot, he's a homophobe, all those slurs. And no, what if you take the time to listen to him explain the concept of self-government is uniquely Christian. The idea that when a person comes to Christ and asks him to be their Lord and Savior, and in return, God gives them the Holy Spirit because we cannot govern ourselves because of our sin natures. We want to. When you read Romans 7, Paul talks about his struggle. I want to do what's right, but I see a war in me. And he says, I thank God, Jesus Christ through for the victory, essentially. Paraphrasing, folks, read Romans 7 and 8 yourselves. And so he was talking about the ability to self-govern through the power of the Holy Spirit. You don't need 5 million laws on the book, which probably every person in America is breaking a law every day and doesn't realize it. And so we talk about those things. I think we're in harmony in promoting that. But at the same time, there needs to be an exposure of sin. You can't heal a wound that is covered up. It'll just fester. It has to see the light, right? It has to, Proverbs talks about that, and letting the sun see it and letting the wound heal. And you talk about Trump's education department exposing a massive ghost student financial aid scam. What is that about?
Well, let me go back 2 steps and to explain that according to how I see it. It's very dear to me as an educator, but the beauty of the United States, again, the democratic system. Some things are not great, and some things are really great. Some outcomes are not what we want, and others they certainly are. We saw that with the Supreme Court, where it came to recently, last month, where it came to biological men transitioning to be women as trans women competing against women, and the Supreme Court said, no, we're not going to do that. But we will let the states decide. So 29 states have said we don't want this in our country or in our state, which still leaves the rest undecided or absolutely liberal and lunatic. But it's a judicial system that works for us, even though we might not like the outcome. I don't like the fact that 3 female justices were dissenters and actually were all for trans women competing against women in sports. In basic terms, that's men competing against women, and it's wrong. And I was a little surprised that females on the Supreme Court would actually vote in favor of destroying female sports. Female sports was not decided as a discrimination against men, but as a beauty for who women really are. Biologically different, different in form and size and everything, and that matters. And so when it comes to the no aid for ghost students, the act that's been passed by the House of Representatives, but it's not yet been passed into law, is another example of a system that works for us, even though we might not like the process or even the outcome. It's something that's not discussed openly, and it's not hitting the media like it should. But in 2025, there was over $1 billion stolen in legal aid. And how it's done is people steal IDs from people that are alive or deceased, pose as a student online, claim that they're under 18, so the camera's not on in the application process because you cannot film an under 18-year-old, or they claim to be homeless. They receive the thousands of dollars for tuition, and then they vanish. And so the universities and colleges have to pay that back to the government, which puts a strain on the educational schools. It puts a strain on their administrative staff and their resources. But if you look at this morally, the act that's now been passed by the House of Representatives, it protects the taxpayer. Money distributed through any Pell Grant is public money. It's your money. It's my money. And fraud is not taken from the government. It's taking from the people's purse. So this act protects the taxpayer. It protects the legitimate student. So the legitimate student who's applying, the process is slowed down and they have to go through so many more hoops because of this fraud. So it protects them and it protects identity theft victims as well. Somebody stole your identity, posed as a 17-year-old student that was applying for college prematurely, the debt would come to you. But this act also restores trust in one of our society's institutions, schools. So, schools, churches, libraries, so on and so forth, they are the institutions that make up our society. To lose trust in education is a huge thing. So, this act seeks not merely to recover the money that was stolen, but preserve and protect everyone in the process. And of course, to get through the House of Representatives, it was unanimous for Republicans, but only 36 Democrats voted for it. So it's like, what's wrong with you? This is theft. And of course, the Democrats are raging. Well, it lifts the lid on privacy and people's private information. Look, I've been a student. I have a bachelor's, 2 masters, a PhD, a bunch of stuff from Harvard. When you apply online for a degree, everything, including your DNA, is going into that application. So this whining about, well, we need to protect people. What you're saying is
what is privacy these days, huh?
Yeah. Well, if you're not guilty of anything, who cares? But it's what they're trying to do, of course, is protect the illegal immigrant that's going to college, because it'll be exposed that they're not legitimately supposed to be here. So that's the argument against it, but it's a very weak one. And I hope it will be passed into law to give these colleges and schools a chance to get forward. That would be a 35,000-foot view of it. Churches are even engaging in this in a theological discussion that, from a Christian perspective, or should I say more academic clergy, they're readdressing, you shall not steal, you shall not give false witness. Romans 13, the government, as you were saying earlier, we need to be governed. And Romans 13 tells us that, God places those in governance over us. And when a government ignores fraud, it fails the people in their God-given responsibilities. So there's commentary on this, right across the board, but it's not receiving the kind of press that it should. Thomas Aquinas, for instance, argued that justice means giving each person their just due. And so ghost students should be given their just due. They should be found and arrested and made to pay back everything that they have stolen. But students should be given their just due in having a chance. Taxpayers be given their just due. Colleges being given their just due. So it's a huge subject that's not getting the press that it
the
should.
Attention. I concur with you. You're spot on. Why are there Medicare schemes in countries across the world? What in the world why are they receiving Medicare? How can they go to doctors in the US? It helps you to understand that the need of Doge. Remember the big controversy about that? Turns out they've uncovered quite a bit of fraud. And it's going to take some time to weed through it. But as you're talking, Dr. Fox, it brings to mind the genius of our founders who wanted a small federal government and wanted power local as much as possible. These organizations need to be overseen by people in communities so they can smell out of fraud as opposed to some bureaucracy and God knows where. Who have no idea, if it's situated in DC, they have no idea what's going on in Colorado or Texas, and they can hide this stuff very easily in their NGOs and in their nonprofits that are simply storefronts. We know that now. Many, not all, but many.
I agree. And in this case, it treats every student that's making an application like a criminal. In other words, you're guilty until we found out you are a real student. And that's not the American way. That's not, you're somebody's son or daughter graduating high school, making an application to college should never be treated like that. Having tried so hard in high school, got the right grades that they should. It's an exciting time of their life, a great transition. It shouldn't be treated as a suspect until proven innocent. So this act will actually pave the way. And of course, it's the same principle of the bullet and the bulletproof jacket. You have a bulletproof jacket that stops the bullet, and so they increase the velocity of the bullet, and then they have to increase the impact of the bulletproof jacket, so on and so forth, and they compete against each other. So fraud will always be here because the scriptures say, evil is in the heart of man. And Galatians tells us, walk in the spirit. The ways of the flesh are very obvious. And Paul says that they're obvious. It's deceitful, full of lies and everything. So it's not that we need to bury our head in the sand. We just need to be sensible through the judicial system.
Here, here. And I appreciate what you're saying. And I do believe that Christians, like our Black Robe Regiment, where pastors not only spoke truth, but they did truth. They led by action. And we need more of that, speaking truth in love, but speaking truth and putting teeth to that. Let's talk about what that actually means in our next segment. I do want to talk about culture clarity. You have a book coming out. I want to talk about that, Dr. Fox. Folks, stay with us. You're listening to Don't Imbibe the Kool-Aid. We'll be right back after these messages.
We wouldn't go a day without washing our hands, brushing our teeth, and washing our nose. Whoa, wait, we wash our nose? Yes, the number one place where bacteria, viruses, and pollen enter the body is through the nose. So the average person breathes over 23,000 times a day. That's 23,000 opportunities for bacteria, viruses, and irritants to get into your nose and make you sick. For an extra layer of protection, wash your nose with Xlear. That is Xlear, Xlear. Xlear's drug-free nasal spray features xylitol, an ingredient proven to block adhesion of many nasty bacteria and viruses and effectively clean, not just rinse like a saline, but wash your nose. Xlear nasal spray quickly alleviates congestion, opens your airway, and ensures your body's natural defenses are strong. Read the research studies for yourself at Xlear.com. That's Xlear.com. Protect yourself from the pathogens and junk you breathe. Pick up a bottle for you and your family today.
Have you been looking for a healthy snack for on the go? Well, not all energy bars are soft and sugary. Bear Bars are a crunchy, savory bar made from just 6 simple natural ingredients. Bear Bars are plant-based, organic, gluten-free, contain 6 grams of protein, and are low-temperature dried for a unique crunch. Most energy bars are based on chocolate or fruit and are held together with syrups or sweeteners. To learn more, just visit bearbar.com/outloud.
The smartest food on the planet doesn't come from a lab or in a package. It grows in a glass jar. I'm Doug Evans, author of the national bestseller, The Sprout Book. Sprouts deliver up to 100 times the antioxidants of mature vegetables. They grow in just 3 to 5 days for under $1 serving. Get your sprouting kit at thesproutingcompany.com/outloud. Use the code OUTLOUD for an exclusive offer. Grow smarter.
Listeners, welcome back to Don't Imbibe the Kool-Aid. Kim Kennedy here, welcoming you to the program, and I'm having a very interesting discussion with Dr. Andrew Fox. He is a priest at an Anglican church in Georgetown, Texas. He's also an entrepreneur. He's also the founder of Cultural Clarity, which I want to discuss, and he has a book coming out. To me, he represents the genre of a priest, a pastor who puts his flock first, understands his calling, but doesn't ignore what's going on in the culture. I really appreciate that because I've grown quite tired of pastors who will not speak out on the horrors of human trafficking, the horrors of gender mutilation, the transgender agenda. And we don't mean, and I have to say this because we've had these conversations before, Dr. Fox. We're not into bashing. We're not into attacking. We're into discussions. And if we agree to disagree, that's fine. But we don't want an agenda pushed on us that disagrees with our theological beliefs. And but first of all, let's jump into cultural clarity. What is that? Tell us more in detail what that's about.
It's about developing the culture of your organization. Culture meaning the values that you hold, and you don't need those actually written down on a wall or a poster or anything. Um, if you go as what they call a secret shopper into any organization, a school, a church, a company that provides a product or a service, you will see within the morning period, maybe the afternoon period, how the people behave and respond to each other. That is the culture. And so there is an assumed culture, and then there is a real culture. So you could say, oh, we are very inclusive, but the behavior of the people is quite the opposite. And that is counterproductive to the flourishing of any organization. And so we saw this with, the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. When that was implemented into organizations, that was the culture. And it made people who didn't fit that criterion, not welcome. And so it became hostile. That's like saying we're all about love and acceptance, but not you. And so it's again, it's got that childish ring to it. So I started in the real estate world. There was a title company that was in a mess, and I offered to help them. And with some maneuvering in that company, it's now flourishing. Sometimes you get the wrong people in the wrong role, and that moved on to construction companies, developers, land developers who were in a mess. Were able to help them too. But of course, I bring the Christ-centered model into that without quoting scripture or anything like that. Just my behavior with other people. It paves a way, and it doesn't need policying with human resource. Now, the company does, the organization does, but as a consultant, you can see that even HR can be a problem when it comes to the flourishing of an organization. So that's kind of, it comes and goes. There's a book on Amazon called Cultural Clarity. It's done pretty well. It's very affordable. It's in electronic format as well. But there's another book that is coming out this September that I'm very excited about. It's called Truth in the Age of Applause: How Stupidity is Ruining the American Dream. And I define stupidity as Dietrich Bonhoeffer defined it in the Second World War. Remember, he was the only theologian to go up against Adolf Hitler. Even the Vatican was very quiet during the Second World War, didn't have much to say. But Bonhoeffer, he defined stupidity as it's not the lack of intelligence, it's not the lack of knowledge or experience, it's the abdication of individual moral thought and judgment just for the sake of going along with the ideology of the day. And so the ideology of his day, of course, was the horror and terror of the Nazi regime. And he was saying intelligent, smart Germans are giving up their moral thoughts and moral independent judgment just to go along with the Nazi regime. Now, I see the same happening in this country, not a Nazi regime, but I see on a local, city, state, and federal level, there is certainly a rise of something that is very un-American. The socialists that are being, I won't say elected through their own merit, because when you look at each one, there is no way they could obtain that role, that position on their own merit. Heavily funded, heavily supported and manipulated. And of course, that socialist agenda is a form of communism. And people are giving up independent thought, independent judgment, intelligent thought about what's going on just for the sake of applause. And so, Mondami, for instance, in New York, had the audacity to sit behind Washington's desk July the 4th and tell America how it's going to be. He's the mayor of New York. He's not a congressional representative. He's not, you know, he's not presidential. He's the mayor of a city, but he postures himself like he's some presidential candidate. And he was only made a citizen in 2018. I was made a citizen in 2015, and it would
And
never.
Dr. Fox, let me ask you a question. Don't you think that these foreigners who come in and want to run for office, and I think that they should take a test and not something light, to demonstrate their complete knowledge and understanding of the Constitution, swear, write a written uh, dedication that they will uphold it, and realizing that if they fail to do that, that they will be removed from office. That's the very least we should be doing.
Well, that's part of citizenship. You didn't have to do it because you were born here, right? But
Yes.
I had to do it, and I had to swear allegiance to the flag of the United States. I had to relinquish any other allegiance. You're given 100 questions in a big booklet about the Constitution, governance, and everything, the history of America. And the immigration officer will ask you at least 10 of those questions, and you better get most of them right. You got to write English, speak English, and read English. There's lots of qualifiers when you become a citizen, but of course, no one talks about that. And I do think there are some backhanders that are there, certainly in Minnesota for sure, to get people citizenship. But organizations, churches, school districts, uh, Apple, Google, some of the massive Amazon corporations, and the local butcher, baker, and candlestick maker, there are rules for being an employee. And if you break those rules, like when I was teaching at a prestigious university in the city of Austin, every semester I had to sign a document to say that I would not date any of my students. Well, they're young enough to be my children, but the reality is that there are some creepy professors that will do that. And they'll have intimate relationship with students in exchange for a grade. And so the policy is to weed that out. And it's a terrible thing. But the principle's there. There are rules. And when you take public office, it seems that the rules are abandoned. If you mock the flag, if you replace the flag with another flag, um, or if you start tearing apart the values of the United States, I'm sorry, you should be fired.
I agree.
There are rules.
And if try going to Middle East countries and doing those types of things, try going to China or Russia or Cuba, etc. You might not come out of there alive, if at all. And once again, I think the failure is that we have failed to teach the greatness of liberty. And we need a movement back to that. We try to do our part here, Dr. Fox, that way. I think that you could contribute to that conversation quite a bit. I have to think that you must be appalled to see how the British government has turned on its own people. What about these gang rapes of young British girls who, what just came out recently? The number still staggers me. Is it 250,000 who have
It's
been the
it's it's absolutely shocking, and I have no doubt that was part of the resignation of Sir Keir Starmer as Prime Minister. There was some backroom dealings there. You know, if you stand down and resign, the press won't give it too much coverage. I'm sure all that was going off. But the two-tier policing system now in Great Britain that protects the immigrant and punishes the natural born British person. We saw that in the terrible death of that young man that was stabbed to death by a Sikh, and the police handcuffed the young
dying
white
young man.
boy.
Yes.
And it turned out that the Sikh was guilty. He's now gone to prison for many years, but it's too late. Why would you handcuff someone that is dying
I
because
didn't
they're stabbed
understand.
to death? Why would you not give them immediate medical attention? And so there's a two-tier policing system also. There's a terrible tension now in Great Britain And one thing that Britain has that America doesn't is architecture, because Britain is, over 1,000 years
Thousands.
old, in its own constitution from 1215 of the Magna Carta. You've got chapels, you've got steeples and spires and cathedrals and abbeys and minsters, these
Aren't some of them
ancient
being burnt
buildings.
down mysteriously, Dr. Fox?
Yep, yep, and some of them turned into mosques. But the architecture of England, it screams, we have Christian roots. It may have different religions in the country now, but it has Christian roots. I hope we don't have the architecture as such, but we have the Constitution of the United States, which clearly defines those founding fathers had Christian moorings. Admittedly, some of them were theists, deists, spirituals, not conventional Christians as we would call them in most cases, but certainly an acknowledgement that there is a creator God, and that we're all made equal under him. And then, of course, the Bill of Rights. That is our architecture, and it mustn't be messed around with.
No, no. And I notice, if this is an accurate report I read, that Britain lost the right to bear arms in 1997. Can you validate that, Dr. Fox?
Yes, there's an argument for and against it. There was a mass school shooting, and then the hammer came down, and there's not been one since. But on the other hand, we are seeing more and more armed police everywhere. And when I grew up in Britain, it was never seen. It was always concealed. Go through any airport, any train station, go across the city of London or any major city, and you will see armed police with semi-automatic weapons. That's on the increase. So what will follow is the illegal ownership of arms. So right now, the biggest weapon being used is a knife. And a lot of them by certain cultures.
What would you say to those Americans who say, man, our hearts go out to what's happening in West Europe, especially in West European countries, because I don't think a lot of East Europeans allow these type of immigrants in their country. Say, but that would never happen in the U.S. And what would be your response to those who think like that?
I would say a main cause of this is the European Union. Every country should govern itself, and it does, but the European Union takes a lot of those rights away from that country. Can you imagine Canada governing the United States? Is ridiculous. And so, Britain came out of the European Union a number of years ago, and maintains its own sovereign governance. And I think the rest of Europe should go like that too. Of course, it's driven by the monetary market, but a lot of those policies in the European Union have allowed the migration of the worst type of Muslim to enter into these countries and impoverish the richness of each country. And I do not mean that as a slander, but as an actual.
It's based on the evidence,
academic
Dr.
fact.
Fox.
Yes. You mentioned the rape gangs in Great Britain. If they were there in Britain, they were certainly there in Europe. There's human trafficking. There's evidence to say that people from the Middle East say you have the worst of us, and their culture is their religion, and their religion is their culture. Whereas in the United States, you can be culturally American but be atheist, spiritualist, agnostic, Christian, Buddhist, whatever. But the culture is not the religion, and the religion's not the culture. But it is in that case, and that's a problem.
And I think you should, I know you will agree that it states in their Sharia law that you can lie in order to whatever the means, the ends justify the means in Sharia. There's no Ten Commandments there.
If you moved to the United Kingdom and became a citizen, you would come under British law. I've moved to the United States and I come under American laws, state and federal, and I have no problem with that. Some of these laws here are different than Great Britain. And no one's asking me. My opinion doesn't matter. These are the laws, and these laws I will abide by. And so everyone coming into the country should do that.
But we've had Henry Ford started with importing workers for his uh, car factory back in the early 1900s. To this day, they have not assimilated. They have not assimilated. They've not become a part of the culture. But with the minute that we have left, Dr. Fox, we have to have you back. We could go on and on and on. I know you have a book coming out. Is it out yet, or is it going to be
No,
released?
if you go to truthintheageofapplause.com, you'll see the pre-sale there and a little bit about the book and various interviews. And if people want to follow me, they can find me on X and Dr. Andrew Fox. And that's there on the website as well, truthintheageofapplause.com.
Well, I really appreciate first of all, your civil response to wrongdoing, injustice. I don't hear any hate in your voice. And I really strive to maintain that here on our program, that we want to reason with people. We want people to think. So much of the left appeals to emotions, getting people riled up in their emotions, as opposed to getting people to think. Thinking and discussing, debating ideas doesn't mean that you're going to automatically agree, but it means, I think, ultimately what it means first and foremost is tyrants hate an informed populace, people who engage in thought, in discussion, and that's why we must continue these conversations. Folks, go ahead and take a look. Is there a website for Cultural Clarity, Dr. Fox?
That's that's currently being upgraded. You can
Okay.
also go to drandrewfox.com and it will take you to Cultural Clarity.
Very good. Dr. Fox, thank you so much for a wonderful conversation. Appreciate you being with us today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Listeners, thank you for joining us today on Don't Imbibe the Kool-Aid. Make it an excellent day. See you on the next edition of the program.